Hello. So I'm going to answer these comments. My kid's in daycare. No, he's actually right here. Oh, shoot. Yeah, he's right here. You probably just heard him talking, so he may come over and want to sit on my lap in just a minute. Okay, so I wanted to propose a question about this idea that artists need to be crazy or like psychologically abnormal or weird or something in order to successfully make art. And I don't know if Paul Talk is going to honey, can you take those over there? Thank you. I don't know if Paul Talk is gonna join the stream, or if he doesn't, I'm sure he'll watch this later. But I want to know, I want a full-on reply video to this. If he thinks that you need to be a weirdo to make art successfully. Anyway, yeah, the reason I was thinking about this is because, yeah, you probably guessed from the sorry, I'm laughing at your comments. I need to stop looking so I can just say what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, I was thinking about this because I was in a restaurant and I heard a Patti Smith song come on, and I was thinking about, you know, the book Just Kids, which I don't know how many of you guys have read it. I bet VDR has read it, just because that's the type of person he is. But and I bet you, like, actually the other reason why I wanted Paul Talk's opinion on this is because he probably like knew. I bet you he was like friends with Patti Smith and Robert Mapplethorpe because he's from New York, and he probably knows them or knows people who knows them. I just would not be surprised about that at all. Anyway, yeah, so I read this book, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. My kid's playing with cars, sorry. Yeah, I read this book probably 10 years ago because everyone told me that this is like the best book ever. And it is, you know, well written. And I think it's had a huge, there's a little guy here who wants to say hi. Yeah, this book has had a huge influence on people in the art world and people who played music and stuff. And yeah, so what it is, it's Patti Smith's autobiography and her kind of account of her relationship with her boyfriend, Robert Mapplethorpe, who was also an artist. I think he became really famous through his photography later on. He's not as famous as Patti Smith, but and then they met in New York in the early 60s, and he like became gay later on, and then he died from AIDS, of course. But yeah, so she kind of goes through her whole life, and she's talking about her childhood, and this is in the 40s and the early 50s. And it's like, it seems like a whole, okay, go on. It seems like a whole different world, you know, this like post-war American world where she's like, you know, it was, what was she? Yeah, she was from like South New Jersey, which is just like totally suburban and normal, it seems like. And yeah, she's recounting her very wholesome, like honestly, wholesome and normal sounding childhood. where there was like an intact society. She's like running through the woods, playing with the neighbor children, just as, wonderful and normal and wholesome as it gets in terms of a childhood. And then it cuts to I can't remember if she was in high school or she had just graduated from high school, and she gets knocked up by, she doesn't even really go into detail about who the guy was. She gets knocked up by some guy, and she has to like go have the baby, and then she gives it up for adoption. And then she basically decides, well, even when she's in high school, she's like, I'm going to be an artist. That was all she wanted. And the area that she grew up in didn't seem very conducive to that. She makes it sound kind of, well, she doesn't make it sound so restraining. Like, she says that her teachers did encourage her to do this, but there's kind of undertones of like frustration with this kind of like square society, suburban life, right? So she moves, or she just goes to New York, doesn't really have any money, doesn't even really have a place to stay. She's just like, I'm going to go to New York, and I know some people that are going to art school at the Pratt Institute, so maybe they will let me stay. But she gets there and was like knocking on their door, and no one's even around, so she just ends up like basically sleeping in Central Park, and just kind of being like a wandering vagabond. She's looking for work at bookstores, but she can't find any. And so she meets, where did she meet him? I can't remember exactly where she meets him. She meets Robert, and he's like basically doing the same thing. He's trying to be an artist. Yeah, she's a bohemian. But it's interesting how she does kind of leave. She leaves this like, stable home. Yeah, maybe it isn't ideal, but she obviously knows where she's going to eat. She knows where her next meal is coming from. She has a place to sleep. She has a loving family. She's close with her family and her siblings. And yeah, basically leaves it all to become like a wandering vagabond in New York. And she's like, I was so hungry. I didn't know where I was going to sleep, but I just had to keep repeating this mantra to myself that I'm free, I'm free. But then what's really happening is she's saying, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. It's interesting. It's like with these hippie types or like bohemian types, it's almost like they're looking for like a penance, or like they know they have to do some sort of penance in order to break free of society, if that's even possible. Yeah, in order to kind of break free of society, like they have to like suffer for it. Yeah, she doesn't think of it as fasting per se. But yeah, she's obviously hungry, and I think she's not thinking of it as a type of penance, but that's kind of how it struck me. So what else happens? Yeah, so she ends up moving in with Robert, and they're like, they're just like, I'm going to live for art. That's all, that's the only thing that matters to them, is just to make art. And you see, not so much with Patty, but with Robert, like and it's hard to tell if he was always kind of like psychologically crazy, or if he's gradually going crazy. Like I'll read to you this part that I don't know. I can't find the exact passage, but he's You know, like staying up all night doing LSD. Like trying to be this tortured person. Like I think he said that the only person that he really kind of idolized was like Andy Warhol, who was maybe crazy. But I just wanted to kind of pose this question, like, is that necessary to be a good artist, like to kind of drive yourself? Okay, no, not right now. Put that down. Thank you. He's playing like a flutophone or a recorder. Is it necessary to drive yourself mad in order to make good art? And my instinct is to say no, because I don't even necessarily like Robert Mapplethorpe's art. I think he was most famous for his photography, and it was like gay S&M images. Like, is that really that great? And I was wondering, where did this idea come from? Like, I'm not sure that Michelangelo and Peter Paul Rubens thought that they needed to be crazy in order to be creative, or in order to accomplish something artistically. Maybe they did. I don't know that much about the lives of those people, but I feel like in that period, they maybe thought of themselves more as craftsmen, and there's nothing like that with a craftsman, like that a good architect needs to be crazy. You see it a little bit more in music. Honey, not now. Not now. Not now. Can you play with your cars? Okay. No, Michelangelo wasn't gay. There's no evidence for that. That's like that's like you. Oh, he just broke a Christmas ornament. Okay. Don't go over there, honey. That's dangerous. Don't go over there. Don't go over there. There's broken glass. No, what that is, saying that Michelangelo was gay is a global homo psyop to try to like co-opt that. And also, Living Gall tried to tell me that Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel was secular, was half secular. Once again, that's global homo trying to explain religious art in any term except the religious. Right? The police arrested who for what? Okay. Anyway, the first, I think maybe I could be wrong about this, but my guess for where that don't step over there. There's broken glass. That's really dangerous. He like threw something and broke a Christmas ornament. Yeah, I'm stupid for having glass Christmas ornaments around a toddler, but what are you gonna do? He's a musician, so I'm not gonna discourage him from being a musician. I maybe picked a bad time to do this. Anyway, yeah, the first person, I drank too much coffee and I can't concentrate. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, the person I thought of was who was that guy? Yeah, Van Gogh. We know that Van Gogh was clearly crazy. You can maybe tell just by looking at his paintings, but this whole thing where he chopped off his ear and everything, like I think maybe that's where that idea comes from, this like the tortured artist or the psychologically crazy. artist. And maybe there was something before that. There very well may have been, but that's the kind of the shining example of it. Don't step over there. There's broken glass. Don't step over there. It's dangerous. Okay? And yeah, what's interesting about Van Gogh too is he was definitely a forefather of modern artists, like where it was more like his painting technique than like he wasn't like a good painter in the traditional sense. And yeah, this thing where he basically didn't get famous. Okay, I should maybe end this and try to redo this later because I have a budding musician here and I don't want to discourage him. He's a pretty good drummer. Come over here. Can you come over here? That's my son. He loves to drum and play his recorder. Okay, he's being quiet now. The other thing that struck me in the Patti Smith book is how they're constantly like stealing, like shoplifting, and it doesn't seem like there's any what is it? Like they don't care, you know. It's like they're always like stealing art supplies, and like they basically think that that's glamorous and wonderful. And I think that it's because they were idolizing Jean Genet, who was another French homosexual poet. And he has a book called The Thief's Journal, where, yeah, I mean, it's what it sounds like. He makes, you know, being like a petty criminal sound really romantic, basically. And that's like who Patti Smith is idolizing. And I, in my, you know, formative days, I knew lots of people. They thought John Genet was amazing, and they thought there was absolutely nothing wrong with shoplifting or stealing, because it's like, you know, it's just a F you to the man, right? But, you know, I know Living Gall is gonna say, oh, but the law was written on their hearts. Say, no, it wasn't. They thought that stealing was virtuous, you know? Okay, I'm gonna maybe try to do this again later because this noise rock band in the background is just not working at all, and I need to clean up that glass ornament, so maybe I might have to delete that. Sorry, didn't work out how I wanted it to.